Okay, well, welcome everybody to the Business Mastermind Show. I'm Christina Rowe. I am the founder of Standout Media Group and the publisher of Addiction 911 magazine. And I'm here with Heidi Richards-Mooney. Heidi, do you want to introduce yourself? She's the founder of Women in E-Commerce and so much more. So I'll let her go fast.
Yeah, founder of Women in E-Commerce. We've been online since 2001. I also am the publisher and editor-in-chief of We Magazine for Women, an online digital magazine that helps women in business and life since 2006. And gee, what else? I have a company called Redhead Marketing. Our tagline is simple, results-driven social media marketing, training, and consulting. And Christina and I do a lot of collaborating together, and we love interviewing people, and we love working together on different projects. And so thank you, Christina, for inviting me to be part of the Business Mastermind and be your
co-host. Thank you. Thank you so much. And this will also be featured on my podcast, Standout Online Club with Christina Rowe. So if you're listening from the podcast, this was also on Blab. If you want to check out the video, it'll be on my YouTube channel as well. I think Heather's trying to come back in, our special guest today. So let's see if we can, she's having a little bit difficulty with the volume today, but let's see if we can hear her.
Different camera. I was on.
Oh, we can hear you. Wonderful.
Hold on a second.
Yay. Okay, wonderful.
I don't even hear me.
We have a very special guest today. Our topic today is sell like a pro and make more money. Heather Havenwood. And now I'm echoing. Isn't that funny? Does anybody have Bluetooth on their cell phone? This is something somebody told me, that if anybody has Bluetooth, we'll all start echoing.
Oh, let me turn my Bluetooth off, even though I'm not on my cell phone.
Can y'all hear me?
Cell phones near. We can hear you, Heather.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing I learned I was on Friday on the Addiction 911 show, that we had a guest come in, the third person, and had Bluetooth, and it made everybody echo.
Well, I turned mine on airplane mode because you have to do that also when you're doing a Periscope. So hopefully that helps.
And you're echoing now too. What about you, Heather? Do you have a cell phone nearby that might be causing some echoing? Was it on Bluetooth?
It's not on Bluetooth.
Okay. So for some reason, we've been having this trouble with the echoing. I think that's a little bit better now.
I still hear it. I'm going to go out and come back in and see if it's me. Sometimes usually it's the person, the perpetrator is usually the last person to arrive if it happens, but I'll try it first and then maybe we'll come back in.
Great. I'll do the introduction while you're Xing out. Okay. So let me see if that did help with the echo. Okay, so let me introduce Heather. Nope, it didn't. I still hear the echo. And maybe, Heather, would you mind Xing out and coming right back in? Because it might be that you're causing the echo.
Sure. Okay,
let me get Heidi back on. Okay, I'm sorry, everybody who's watching. I mean, we're having a lot of technical. Now I'm not echoing anymore. So it was Heather. I don't know why that happens with the third person sometimes with the echo. It's really crazy.
Oh, and that's why
we're going to come back in.
Yeah, that's why we ended up rescheduling Lisa's program for tomorrow, was because of all the echoing. Finally, when we got to hear her, the echoing was terrible. And so we just couldn't deal with it.
And it was just the two of you. Was it the two of you, or you had more than one person on?
Two of us, and then Roy came in and listened while we kind of tried to filling in some time, because he's also an expert in social media and a good friend of mine. So I had, I was kind of talking to him a little bit in between, so that at least we had stuff going on.
Okay, how is this?
Okay, let me see. Oh, I think yes, great. Okay, wonderful. And we're not echoing. Perfect. Okay. So let me do Heather's introduction. Okay. Heather Ann Havenwood is the CEO of Havenwood Worldwide LLC, and she's Chief Sexy Boss. I love that. She's a serial entrepreneur and regarded as a top authority on internet marketing, business strategies, and marketing. Heather has also been named by few as an icon creator or the wizard behind the curtain. And she has instructed and coached and promoted hundreds of entrepreneurs, leading them down the path to success. She's also the author of Sexy Boss, How the Empowerment of Women is Changing the Rule Book for Sex, Money, and Success, and the game of dating and how to play it, a rule book for divorced men stepping back into the game.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Heather, for being with us today. Sorry for all the technical difficulties.
Yeah, no problem.
We're good now, which is really great. And I know you're also an expert. You help your clients with sales, and that was one of the things we wanted to mastermind about today.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, in the world of sales, I mean, I started in the corporate world, actually, in sales, but it was kind of an interesting story. I was 23 at the time, and a cute young girl walks in for a job interview. And back in the day, this was Southwestern Bell. And they said, well, you should be a customer service girl because you're cute, right? And I said, no, I want to be in sales. And they said, no, you don't have a degree. You're too young, like all that. And you're a woman. That was the fun part. And I said, I want to be in sales. And they go, okay, we'll put you in inside sales where, it's kind of more like customer support. And I said, no, I want to be in outside sales. And the guy just laughed at me and he chuckled and he said, well, all right. You know that there's a quota. And if you don't hit it, you're out, right? And I said, yeah. So he's like, all right, let's try it. So here they go. They gave me a cell phone. This is like 98, like old phone, like big brick phone, and some business cards and a phone book. And they said, go. That was it. So I had to learn quickly on how to sell from nothing, from scratch. And I learned how to knock on doors. I walked into businesses. I learned how to get some what I call big balls. You just walk into offices and go, hey, I'm here to try to sell you. And through that process, I was actually there for 4.5 years, and I actually ended up being the top salesperson in the entire country. And I beat every LA, New York, all those different places. I was actually in Fort Worth, Texas. I was actually considered a small market. So that was my first introduction to sales. And I had a good experience there. And then I moved on to seminars, actually, and traveling around the country and doing seminars. And that was a whole nother level where you would walk into a room, meet about 60 strangers, and then you had an hour and a half to 2 hours to pull $3,000 out of their pocket. Wow. You talk about, learning the art of persuasion and sales from know, like, and trust, building rapport, understanding communication, and going to the close, like in a very short period of time. So I did that for 7 years. And so that's kind of what brought me to where I'm at today. And I learned copywriting and direct response from that process. But that was my kind of hands-on experience of learning the art of sales. And now we do it with VSLs and sales letters and things like that. You don't get that real world experience. And I think there's a huge missing with that because that's the rejection piece, where you see in the eyes of someone who just wants to either roll their eyes or they're rejecting you. And it's that real world feeling. Nowadays, we kind of, don't have that. We just put it out there. And if they reject us, we never feel that experience. So, that's kind of my background in sales. And now I take that into business with my authorship and speaking. And now I do coaching and consulting with that.
Wow. So just backing up for a minute,
sure.
The fact that you started off with the phone book and you were given, just the basics, the fact that you had, you overcame obviously a lot of fear. And I think that's probably most people having trouble making sales is the fear of rejection, the fear of, being turned down. And how did you overcome that? How did you, get the guts to just go out there? And I'm sure you had a lot of rejection and do it. How did you motivate yourself?
Wow. It was more of a fear of failure than desire to win at that point in my life. And I was young. I was in that environment. I was one of the only females. There was a lot of men. The average man was, 40. They had children at home and kids. I was single. And I remember we called it the revolving door because they'd always say, look to your right, look to your left. They're not going to be here in 3 months. And it was true. I can't tell you how many people, came next to me and left and left and left. And 4 years in an outside sales, business to business, hardcore cold call environment, 4 years is a long time. So I was considered a senior, in 3 years. I'm like 26 at that point, and I'm like considered a senior sales rep in the company. So it was an interesting dynamic, but you still had that quota. Every month you started at 0. And if you didn't hit it, then you didn't hit it and you got 2 more tries and you're out. It was this constant thing. And I think that my focus was I was going to school at night. I didn't have my degree yet. And so it was my ticket, at the time. If I didn't make this money, then I couldn't go to school. So that was kind of my particular motivation. And also there was definitely on a personal female level of like, I want to beat the big boys. So, I'll be honest. Yeah, it was like, screw you, I could do it. I had a lot of that. It was a lot of like, I could do them and show you, and it's true, I did. And it was an interesting dynamic because I ended up having you got to a certain level, they gave you like an assistant, and I had an assistant like the last year and a half, and he was a male, and he was older than me, and he was married with kids. And so he was my assistant, and that was an interesting dynamic, but I learned a lot on how to build rapport, how to sell, how to just get past the fears, how to walk in the door and not take rejection personally. But I think that's just overcome with time, and one of the things that happened, actually, one of the things I became good at was what I call taking the trash accounts. And the reason I want to share that with you is because I think that is now what I kind of do in life and business is I take something, I go, oh, this is dead, and put life back into it. And so I would take accounts and they would go, oh yeah, here's these dead accounts. You can't make any money on them. And I would take the account and I would work it. I would nurture it. I would put life back into it. And all of a sudden this is a growing account. Like, how'd you do that? I'm like, well, I spent time with them and I nurtured them and I fed that. And then all of a sudden they started buying again. So it went from like a management account or whatever to a buying account. And I think in business, when in our life and internet marketing, it's like, oh, I did that book. Oh, I did that product. It's done. It's like, no, where in that do you think it's done? And I like Think and Grow Rich. I mean, it's been around for years, but the reason why it's still around because people breathe life into it. And that's part of sales. You got to continue to breathe life into your product or service.
You always have to be promoting. But, I have a question regarding that. So you talked about building rapport and you talked a little bit about persuasion. So tell us, what are like the top key ingredients do you think for a person to be good at sales? And does your personality have a lot to do with it? Like, for instance, I think I'm an introvert, but I also am very good at sales, and that's not because I'm not a real bad introvert like some. I just prefer that being with myself than I do with crowds. So a lot of people will think that because you're an introvert, you're not going to be good at sales. So can you talk a little bit about those qualities a person needs in order to be really good at sales?
Yeah, I think so. That's a great point. And I think it has nothing to do with introvert or extrovert. I think it has to do with being able to connect. And, the Myers-Briggs, we all know, is the introvert extrovert kind of, you take a little test and it tells you if you're introvert extrovert. What's interesting about that particular test is that in that span of 4 years, for some reason, I took that test twice in that span of 4 years on that company. And I started out as an extrovert. I ended up as an introvert on the test. Yeah. And it's kind of this weird, like, oh, how did you switch? And I think it's actually just becoming to be connection with yourself, and then you can connect with other people. I think great salespeople are actually people that know how to connect with other people versus push other people. If that makes any sense. I mean, a great persuader, I used to travel with the country and see some of the top sales speakers in the world. I mean, here these people would move people, literally crowds, to different rooms and sell, $100,000 worth of product in a 3-hour period. I mean, you see some amazing persuasion, but I would not say that those people were pushy. They were people that knew how to connect with the human emotion, and because they were connected with themselves. And so they were able to connect with the human emotion, no matter what that human emotion is, and be able to be with it. And I think that's why good salespeople are good, because they're able to connect, not necessarily about introvert or extrovert. That's my view.
You brought up a great point about Myers-Briggs. I did the exact same thing and had the exact same results. I was an ENTJ and now I'm INTF or something like that. I can't even remember because it's been 10 years. But I think it has to do with maturity and self-awareness, because we see ourselves differently at different stages in our lives. So, when you're taking that test, it's a self-assessment. I think people listening might think, oh, I just can't sell because I'm not good at it. And I think that probably confidence plays a huge part. But you're right. I think connecting with people, being able to listen well, to understand what they're really trying to say is important. What are some other tips you would give people who are trying to make connections with people?
That's a great point. And I think extrovert, the intention or the definition of extrovert, introvert, from what I understand with Myers-Briggs, is someone, an extrovert is someone who, what I call, feeds from other people, right? Feeds energy from an introvert actually feeds from themselves. And I would say that and I looked at this, a lot of actors you would think are these big extroverts, and they're actually not. They're introverts. That's why they kind of go back into a hole, right? They'll like go out and they'll come back in a hole. Or theater, musicians, like they come out, right? And they come back in because their creativity is fed from here. So I don't think even introvert necessarily is a good perspective for someone to say, will I be good at sales? Because it's not even really relevant. It's actually, so the relevancy is actually being willing to what I call be in communication with someone and get over there in their world, is being to understand what they're really saying. What's that rejection? What does that really mean? What's fully going on in the situation. I'll give you examples of something I was dealing with currently in one of the businesses I work with. So we had a woman come in and she wanted to refund some supplements of something. And I said, okay, this doesn't sound right. She's saying that she's found the supplement somewhere else cheaper. Well, I know that for a fact is not true. So I called her personally and I just had this conversation with her. And when it came down to it, I was like, well, it sounds like you just can't afford it right now. And she's like, you're right. I can't afford it right now. I go, okay, well, just say that. It's okay. Like, that's fine. We'll totally refund it. But it's listening for what's really going on over there versus her like, well, I found somewhere else. It's like, that wasn't even the truth, and I think in sales, she felt more comfortable. She'll probably buy it again if she wants to come back. She felt comfortable with the conversation. And I think in sales, it's about having the other person feel comfortable with yourself and the product or service, and they'll connect you with the product or service, so I think that is a key piece. So if you're in, like, let's say in car sales, there are times where I'm like, I know I want that car, but this salesperson is annoying me. So it's like, can I get somebody else because I just want someone I feel comfortable with, and I think it's a comfort level more than
all the
anything.
Time.
Yeah.
So, and Christina's trying to get back in the room.
Sure.
Christina, can we hear you? No. Okay. Hopefully she will be back soon.
Sure.
So luckily I have lots of questions for you.
No problem. Christina, sorry.
So Heather, what are some of the mistakes that you see people make when it comes to, selling and promoting, say, their products and services?
One, not asking for the sale.
Oh, yeah.
Not asking. They try to convincing. Well, here's what it does. Here's what it does. Bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. They got like, do you want it? Or assumption of sale. Like, okay, let's go ahead and get this rung up for you. Or, all right, let's do this. So go ahead and let's sign you up. Like, they wait.
Would you like to sign up for the 30 or 60-day plan?
Yeah, like, let's go ahead and sign you up. Let's go ahead and sign you up. I mean, I was at the AT&T store yesterday. This is a great example. And I was there for 4 hours. And what a great environment. They did one-on-one. They sit you down. And she probably sold me on 5 different things, but she never asked for the sale. She kept telling me the benefits of features. And I went like this one, okay. And I'm waiting for her to go, okay, let's get started. I'm like, okay, I probably just would have signed at that point, but she didn't. And so I felt like I had to like do this. And at one point, I just said, okay, well then let's just forget about it. She gave me an easy way to say no versus saying, yeah, well, let's go ahead and get you started. Let's go ahead and, get the paperwork signed up and here, go ahead and sign this. And there I am sitting with the pen in my hand, like, all right, let's do it. So that's what you need to do is just assume the sale and then let them say no at that moment. Now, it's not being pushy. It's just setting things. It's what I call setting the structure for things to happen. So in the seminar world, what we would do, I'm just giving you like another analogy for people to understand, is like in the seminar business, is some people would like get up and go back of the room. That was one way. But I think a better way was we would pass out at a certain time in the presentation, we'd pass out the actual checkout form, right? The form. And then we would tell people, okay, go ahead and write your name. I know you might not even know if you're going to take this yet. That's fine. Go ahead and see what people do is people automatically will take a pen and they'll start to like, well, I'm kind of bored right now. I'm not sure if I want this or not. And the next thing they're filling out their information. Next thing they're at the credit card. They're like, oh, I don't know. All right, I'll get it. So there they are, and they're filling it out in their own little space. And then they get up and go take the form. And then at that point, it's already done. It's closed. So that's asking for the sale or assuming the sale and taking people through that process and getting them to that yes point faster. And online, we do that, of course, with click the button and take you to the sales card, of course. But again, I think it's just asking for the sales, number one. Number two is not overselling,
right?
And not being at what I call not being a VSL, actually being in communication. Like, one of the features is this, would that something be work for you? Well, no. Okay. Well, one of the features is this, would that work for you? Yeah, I like that one. Oh, okay, great. Now you know a hot button and you can kind of go down that road, versus like what I call, we all think we're TV and that person's not there. If it's like a face-to-face environment, they just start talking. You're like, there's actually someone there to talk to back to you. So being engaging in the conversation versus just a one-way conversation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you have to use intuition, and you have to kind of know when to close them, hold them, if you will. Because I think that what happens is, you're right, a lot of people oversell. There are people who need a lot of data before they can make a decision.
Yes.
There are people like me who, you know what, I'm a very bottom line person. If I know I want something, I don't need to be sold on it. I just need to know that it's going to work and the way that I want it to work. And then I want to know the bottom line. And the bottom line is not always the price, and I think that's the other mistake people make, is that they think that the price is the bottom line. And that's where they get probably in trouble. But I have a question here. Marguerite Beatty from Create Photos has a question. How would Heather do that if it were a written piece? So for instance, talking about the copy and, how would you go through the sales process in a copy? And I know that.
Yeah, that's kind of a long question. Yeah, because I do copywriting, obviously. It depends. I do a lot of email marketing. So a lot of my email marketing, I do a lot of email marketing on a daily basis. And so a lot of my emails are either what I call short to click, where it's just like, I just want them to open the email and click and get over there and get to the VSL, or I have like a story behind it where I get them to go to the click afterwards. And it's like what I call a pre-sale. So it depends on your market, of course. But my background's now at this point, I consider myself a direct response copywriter at this point. And I do a lot of copy. I also have something that I teach people on the whole presentation, which is considered a VSL or a sales presentation. And I told one of my coaching students yesterday, I said, I'm teaching you a sales presentation because I never want you to go speaking ever again. And he's like, what? I'm like, because you'll never speak again. If you ever take a quote unquote speaking engagement, never think of it as speaking engagement. It's always a sales presentation. Always, 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 always. Doesn't matter what it is, what environment, it's a sales presentation. And if you know how to do a sales presentation, you can do any kind of presentation. So that's a long question to answer. Not that I don't want to answer it. It's just a long question, because there is a certain way to actually do a sales presentation with certain segments that are the best way to do it. Hi, Christina.
Hi. Sorry, guys. Let me see. Oh, great. Oh, now, wow. I think I'm frozen. Guys, continue on. I think I'm frozen. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
I hear you.
I'm having major, I guess it's Mercury in retrograde. My computer just.
It is Mercury in retrograde.
I don't understand what is going on. And then I thought I just put out a new one. I thought that I got rid of everybody. I thought that I closed the show, which I didn't think.
What? With Blab, you don't close the show. I learned this at my last show, is until you exit everybody out. And so you should exit them out before you exit yourself out. And then the show ends. So like if you leave, we could still talk for another hours. So
okay, continue on. I interrupted. Right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, Marguerite had a great question. Yeah, there's a bad echo, Christina. And
I'll X out. I'll try to get on the computer. Let me continue on. I'll X.
Okay. You're adorable.
Right. Oh, I know. It's
it's Blab though. Yeah, it's okay. We're the beginning. What they call that in the bell curve. We're like,
we're at the very forefront of everything here, and it's very nice to you get to see, because we're in beta. Obviously, the Blab is still in beta, and I think they're working out the kinks as well. Although I haven't seen a lot of kinks. I think the kinks are more on the user end than they are on the actual site itself. So I have a couple more questions, and hopefully Christina will get back and she can finish us up. So you've coached a lot of speakers and trainers to help them increase sales, for instance, on stage, as you talked about. What are some of the things you teach and coach them to help them achieve, for instance, their own sales goals?
Oh, that's a great question. So I talk in analogies sometimes because I think people understand it. So when I was traveling the country doing these seminars, right, when my speaker closed more, I made more money. So I had an invested interest in him being successful. And at the time, we were what I call a newbie market, and we were going to like places like Peoria, Illinois, and small towns, and it wasn't that fun, and to be honest. And we were still traveling just as much as other teams. You know, we're still slugging our stuff around, still getting on planes, still, you know, it's a pain in the butt. So I'm like, I saw other teams going to New York and LA, and they were seeing triple the amount of people. And so, of course, you can make more money when you see more people, right? And I'm like, well, how do we do that? And so what I began to do is I began to learn and go to every speaking engagement I possibly could. A lot of them was Robert Allen, Marshall Silver, and Ted Thomas. And they were like masters for closing. And I learned the art of closing from the stage. Now, that does translate online, of course, but at the time, you know, online wasn't that big yet. This is like 99, 2000, 2003, 4. And so what I learned is the art of the close. And so then I translated that. I taught my speaker. Then I began to actually consult on that, because we went from about 10% close, which by the way, the company was like happy with 12% because they made like, they didn't make money. They just broke even. But if you made more than 12%, it was like, oh, we like you.
Superstar.
Right? Yeah, you're Ringo Starr. Well, we got to about 20. We were now doing consistent 20 and 22%. That was like huge. So now they're making money on the front end, which is huge. And so we started going to Denver, LA, New York, all these great places, and started making more money. Dallas, Houston. And the things that I learned were quite simple, really. It was the things that we just talked about. It's being in a dialogue and communication and knowing their hot buttons. And if you don't know their hot buttons, what I call read their hot buttons. Like you say a few things and you'll see their reaction, or you'll ask questions like, hey, tell us your number one challenge on Socratic method, right? Tell us your number one challenge on making money today. Give it space, ask the question. Three hands come up. They come up with the same kind of answer. Okay, then you start to build your presentation around those challenges, and you consistently bring that, what I call the challenges, the solution to your challenges is this product, right? So you want to connect that their solution to their challenge that they just told us is this product or service or like whatever, right? So you consistently weave that through the presentation and make sure at the close, you are actually asking for the sale. Now's the time to make your choice. Now's the time to go ahead and make that choice right now for your future. And let's go and get started now.
So you're talking about building value in the whole presentation. And then at the end, you know that they want more. Because
yes.
You told them all of the things that this product or service does. You've given them a lot of examples, and you've also given them a lot of good information. I think that's really a key. Christina's back. Yay!
I don't know. Do I have an echo? Can you hear me?
Oh,
wow. Okay. I'm actually on the iPhone now, which maybe this works. I've never done it from the iPhone before.
That's awesome.
I gave up on the computer. I'm like, you know what? Forget this computer.
You know, that's actually really cool. I'm actually impressed. You look great. I mean, my camera's on.
Her iPhone she does her Periscope, and they always look really good quality. So I'm going to ask you one more question. Then I'm going to turn it over to Christina to close. So you'd mentioned a lot of people in your last conversation about like Marshall Silver and Robert Allen. I love Marshall Silver. He happens to be brilliant at selling from the stage. I'm probably one of the best I've seen, and I've seen a lot of them. And I love Robert Allen. Who doesn't love Robert Allen? But who would you say is your go-to person, say, for business advice?
Currently Joe Sugarman. Joe Sugarman's a dear friend of mine. He was a forward of my book. We have a business together. Him and I co-created an event 2 years ago. It's called the Success Magnet Seminar. It was me and Joe were the hosts, and then we had Joe Polish, John Benson, John Carlton, and myself were on stage. So it was an amazing success. And if I need advice, I might have a personal business coach, but he's kind of my go-to guy, mainly because he's an amazing salesperson. He's a copywriter, and he knows how to communicate. And whenever I'm stuck on copy, you know, that's kind of my person I go to. So he's an amazing, amazing person. Now, from a stage perspective, like someone that really good at sales on stage, Robert Allen's good, but Marshall Silver, I think, is really just kind of kept up to date. Marshall, if you're there, hi, Marshall. He's really kept up to date on things that's going on, and he's just has that ability to be so empathetic with the audience and be able to move people. I just really love watching him. He's actually kind of an amazing artist on stage, and you don't see that nowadays.
I got on his stage once, and he had the audience eating fire.
Yes.
Films of it, and I was just. I was hooked from then on. I would have bought anything he sold.
Yeah, that's key, right?
Convince me to eat fire. He can do it. I tell you, he is really great. Christina, It's all yours now.
Oh, I've seen Marshall a few times on stage at a couple of seminars. Yeah, he's very entertaining. I think that's what part of the appeal is too. So it's entertainment plus you're getting, he's giving a lot of value, and it really makes you want to run to the back of that room. I've done that. I'm sure we all have, right? The running, knock people over right to the back of the room. Here's my credit card here.
I've done it.
We've all done it, right?
I think the best salespeople are the ones that are. They're so transparent, and yet you don't know you're being sold to. Mm-hmm. I think they're the best salespeople.
Right. And that's the key. You don't know you're being, you don't know you're being sold to.
And I think I wanted to share one thing you asked me about what's a key for a great salesperson is them being willing to be sold. I think a really good salesperson loves to be sold.
Yeah. You're right.
Sold to, someone who's resistant to selling. There's no way they're going to be able to sell. It's you got to allow yourself to be sold. I'm being sold right now. Okay. All right. This is cool. All right. Tell me more. How are you going to sell me? This is good. Because you learn from them, taking cold calls, taking other kind of reading other people's sales copy, allow yourself to be sold or not, and I think that's a key piece. Believe it or not, that's a key piece. Anybody who's I'm being sold, I hate it. It's well, you're never going to sell. Because you got to be able to be sold to sell.
Right. You have to believe in it and really love what you're selling. I think that's crucial too. Because if you, go and you buy a product or you have a service from somebody, you rave about it. You go online, you're like, oh my God, this person's wonderful. Or you go say you get your hairdresser and you want to, you naturally are going to sell that person. But a lot of times when it comes to selling ourselves, our own products, we're not as enthusiastic, which is we have to believe in ourselves more. I don't know if you covered that while I was gone, but I think that's a really big problem. I think people hesitate with sales is because they're not putting out that same, they're not promoting themselves like they would promote somebody else. They have that block, where they have to really believe and love the product they're selling and use the product they're selling too. If they're selling somebody else's product, well, you better use that product, right. Or you're not going to come off as authentic. When you truly believe that what you sell, what product or service you offer is really generally going to really change lives and help people, then it's you're wondering, well, why isn't everybody getting this? It's going to help them. So I think you come across with more confidence.
Yeah, I know. I absolutely agree with that. Confidence is key with selling. Confidence in the product or service and or yourself is a key piece. But when I hear people go, oh, I don't like to sell myself. Right. I don't, it's I kind of question that. I'm well, you're always selling when you're selling to your spouse, you're selling to your kids, you're persuading, any of the people that work with you, you're always selling. You're selling the mechanic on why you want that versus this. You're always selling, and I don't see why people go, oh, I don't like to be sold to. Well, then you're going to have a hard time in life, I think.
Right.
I just think it's always a sales process. It's a persuasion process on everything, especially relationships, kids, parents. I just think it's a huge piece.
It's really true. I've been following Grant Cardone lately, who's he's very interesting. I really like his stuff. He's very to the point, and he actually says that he had to sell his wife on marrying him. For sales. He said he did a whole sales presentation, about getting her to actually agree to marry him, which I thought was interesting.
Wow.
But yeah, he has some interesting stuff for sales too. On his, he's got a podcast that you guys can listen to. It's a little hard hitting. So if you're not used to somebody, being, sorry, Heidi, go ahead.
He's pretty big on Meerkat, I think too. Isn't he?
Yeah, he's on Periscope too. And that's the other thing. Periscope, you can find a lot of great people on Periscope now, people who are out there looking for different, and you find the style of person you resonate with too, as far as, looking for a mentor, like you were asking, about who, everybody's going to have a different mentor that they, relate to. Like some people's style is not for you, and other people's style, you're going to resonate with that. And you should learn from that person and try out different people.
There's a question on the text. Parent Dome wants to know if Heather works with pre-launch companies. I'm trying to read this as we go along.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you for that. And by the way, I wanted to ask you, Christina, how you're using our Periscope. I'm actually curious because I'm just now like, what is that? How can I use that? But I will answer that question. In fact, I'm in Austin, Texas, and there's a thing here called Capital Factory, which is like an incubator for many companies, launch companies, and also on St. Edward's University, they have an incubator for businesses on helping them get started. And I'm on actually a judge panel for them. And I actually am doing some marketing coaching for St. Edward's. That was a lot of fun when I did that because I was working with 2 guys. I got some funding, and then they brought me in kind of under like, oh, you're kind of a marketing coach. But what I ended up is I started working with them on their sales, how to sell themselves, how to promote themselves, how to present themselves, like this whole world of it. And they're like, whoa. And because of that, though, they made some huge strides. They got 2 more rounds of funding. And I think it was because I just worked with them on their confidence and their personal presentation, and how they communicate and how they ask for the money. I just worked on that for about 6 months. And through that, they just had some huge phenomenon. They're doing really well. I know they have a big office on 6th Street, and every now and then I hear something about them. And it's pretty powerful. So yes, the answer is yes. I love working with pre-launch companies because I think they're fun. They're open to more ideas. They're open to movement than sometimes companies have been around for 10 years. They're like, I'm stagnate. That doesn't work. So yes, I would love to work with you. But Periscope, I'm curious how you're using Periscope.
Yeah. Heidi and I both we've gotten on the Periscope bandwagon lately, and we've been using it and repurposing them. I think there's a lot of value in that. So what we've been doing is we've been, doing Periscopes, and then make sure when you do sign up for Periscope that you click on the save to camera roll, so your video will automatically save, and also sign up for catch.me because it'll save on there as well. And then we're uploading them to YouTube. And then we're putting that same, what I'm doing a lot too is taking that Periscope and then using it as a LinkedIn post article where I'll take like the bullet points from the Periscope and then embed the YouTube video of the Periscope. So it kind of is killing, 3 birds with 1 stone. So you share it all over social media, and you're also getting a lot of people like here on Blab. You're getting live people asking you questions, talking to you. So Periscope's been great. Heidi's been doing the same thing. She's been giving a lot of great tips about Periscope, how to use it and the little ins and outs. And I suggest everybody join on Facebook. If you want to get followers fast on Periscope, go to Tag Tribes on Facebook. The Tag Tribes community is a group, and join them. Just put Tag Tribes. Mark Shaw is the one who runs Tag Tribes. And make sure you just do a couple things. You want to put hashtag Tag Tribes in your Twitter profile. And also on your Periscope profile, because the Tag Tribers support each other. You're going to get them giving you lots of hearts. They're going to jump in. They're going to support you. There's now, I think, almost 2,000 Tag Tribers on Facebook in the community. And they're also on Twitter. You can find them really easy, but they're a great support system to get started and get those, followers. I think Heidi has more than me. Your one was like 600. I think I'm about 489 or 88 or whatever. And we've done this in a couple of weeks, so definitely Periscope is really great to really connect with people. And there's a lot of people. I see a lot of, famous people. I was watching the other day, John Edward, the psychic. Yeah. He's actually does Q&A on Periscope, from his house.
I love
you
that.
Can really
that
connect
makes
with people.
Sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got that interesting stuff. People are cooking, they're singing, they're doing something called Pass the Mic. This one guy where people are singing on Periscope. They pass it, because you can share. Awesome. Speaking of followers, everybody, please follow. I know both Heidi and I, we follow back here on Blab. So definitely, check on our little follower thing, and Heather as well, and follow us here so we can see what you're doing. You can see what we're doing in the future. And if you like what you're seeing, please swipe to the left and put that little tell a bird, or swipe to the left is for Periscope. What? Sorry. Just click tell a bird.
Tell a little bird.
I'm mixing up my Periscope and my Blab stuff up here. Tell a little bird that we're on. and definitely, there we go. We're getting some right. This will we get some people to watch the replay as well. So yeah, I think there was some question here to tag tribes. Perfect. And somebody I think had asked for the name. What is his name? I think you're referring, it was Grant Cardone. And you're right. He is here on Blab as well. He does a lot here on Blab. So you should watch him, and also watch Mark Shaw. Mark Shaw, both on Periscope. I don't know if he's so much here on Blab. He's really good too, especially for Periscope. He will give you a lot of really great tips. So it's really great that we're finding all these people that are, really active here on this community. You really discover new people too, new people who have really great new ideas and stuff too, both here, Blab and Periscope. So it just seems like these platforms have just exploded over, the last couple of months, but definitely we repurpose these Blabs as well. So I'll take the audio from this, because after you do a Blab, it's wonderful. Blab sends you the MP4 of this broadcast, and they also send you the audio. They strip the audio for you, so you can upload it right to a podcast.
Oh, that's
which is really great. And then you'll get the option when you're done to upload this video directly to your YouTube channel, which is fantastic. So it's like so easy to repurpose. Yeah. Oh yeah. These are, I'm doing this also for my other show, Diction 911 show, for my magazine. And I'm using those as go right to iTunes as podcasts, and I spread it all over social media. So anybody, if you're doing these, make sure you get the most of them and repurpose. Take them and both the Periscopes and the Blabs, and make sure, because a lot of people are going to watch the replay. They're not here right now live, and you might get a lot of people, they'll catch it on YouTube, put it on Google Plus, put it on LinkedIn, get it on Twitter and Facebook, of course.
Yeah,
so this awesome. Way you cover all your bases, right? Right, Heidi?
Yeah, and I love
you got to spread it all over.
So we're going to find you there, Heather, and we're going to follow you because when you get into our radar, we stalk all our favorite people.
Good, thank you.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is great. I mean, I think I feel bad that I've missed a lot of it because of my technical difficulties. So I'm gonna have to go watch the replay myself to see what Heather had to say. But I'm sure it was all great. But yes, sales is so important. If I think it's the number one reason businesses fail is obviously because of not making enough sales.
Yeah, I think I'm working with a chiropractor right now, and he's doing some weight loss things, and I think that the biggest thing I'm working with him on is he's extremely intelligent, like really, really smart. And he knows he can help people, but going through that process of giving someone like, we can help you. And then there's the now pay, then we can help you. Yeah. What happens? He just starts to give all the information before they actually pay. And then they get overwhelmed. Right. And then they're like, oh, God, it's a lot. I'll have to think about it. Right. So that's one of the things, especially with like how really intelligent people that are just brilliant at something and a master something, they like give too much information before they actually sell or they get the payment.
Right. And they're not getting to the problem of I'll tell the story I told to Heidi during our mastermind about a chiropractor. I recently signed up for a chiropractor. I get migraine headaches. So that's a huge problem. I mean, they're horrible. And I found a chiropractor who's doing this new technique only 5% of all chiropractors do. And I really admired his brilliant sales technique. This guy obviously has been trained. I mean, how I got him was he had a Facebook ad for a free ebook for people suffering from migraines. And he's in my area. I'm like, okay, hello. My email address went right in. He personally called the next day. I went to my voicemail. Then his secretary followed up. So now I call back. He said, come in for a free consultation. Of course I did. And he was smooth. I mean, down to his waiting room, to his entire brand. He had everything, like organic teas, and he had the oceans, on the TV. And then he had the whole process where he brought me in and he said to me, one of the things he said, my insurance covers chiropractor, but not his. And he said, well, how much is it worth to you to get rid of your pain? Well, when you get anybody out there suffering from migraines, the answer is anything. Oh my God, you'll pay, priceless. I mean, I can't stand it, So I'm like, all right, sign me up. And and he's really great. He has a really good process. So it's, I think with sales, a lot of times too, you have to be careful and watch that your whole brand supports what you're selling. He also has testimonials and local people who have backed him up on the fact that he has cured migraines. So that helped a lot too. Because obviously the first thing I did is I Googled him before I even went there. Now, if he had a crappy website and a crappy brand, I would not have gone. And that's, I think, a missing component that people, you could be the greatest salesperson in the world. But, if I go to your website and it's awful, that's it. I mean, you're not going to go. Even the kids nowadays know that. My 17-year-old daughter once wouldn't go to a hair salon because she looked on the website and said, "They have a crappy website, Mom. I don't trust them." So think about that, right?
It's the whole brand. You know,
it's your entire brand.
I like my brand. I'm wearing my brand. Can y'all see that?
I love it.
Because
oh, that's great.
What is this?
I can't read it though. But let me see. Oh, wait. Being the
boss is sexy. Being the boss is sexy.
Being the boss is sexy. Yes. So, and you have a great brand. Yes. And Heather, I love your website, by the way, because I went to your website when I met you, and I'm like, I'm very impressed, Heidi. You've got to go to Heather.
Oh, I've been there already.
The link again, Heather.
I've been there already.
Great, a fantastic design. If you ever did your website, a shout out to them. Great branding, love it. I think your branding is fantastic because I always look for that.
We would never interview anybody who didn't have a good brand all the way through. So just know that. Right. But what I wanted to mention, because Christina brought up a great point, and Heather talked about this earlier, was about the fact that people who can be sold to make better salespeople because they're open to it. And I think that
right.
You know, you're a perfect example. I think I'm a little more resistant. I have a harder time, which is probably why I'm not as I don't want to edify that I'm not good at the clothes. I am. I just have to really focus on it. And I have to be like, you know, all right, Heidi, get yourself psyched up, you know, and I have the confidence, you know. So Heather, you're just wonderful. I love all the things that we're sharing. I know we're running out of time, Christina. We should probably ask her a couple more questions.
Yeah.
Yes. Anybody want to jump in? Anybody want to jump into the hot seat really fast and have a question for Heather or Heidi or me? You can just jump right in or write into the comments if you have any questions. And in the meantime, Heather, please tell everybody where we can follow you, what your website is, what you're working on right now, where they can get your books.
Yeah. Thank you. So on Amazon, you're welcome to go to and just type in Heather Havenwood. But my main site is heatherhavenwood.com. Please check that out. It has a lot of information about me, and sexybossinc.com. If you're a female, that is really more for you and about the empowerment of what I call being your own sexy boss and being your own, what I call your own boss, being the boss of your life. Not that men can't do that. I just think that women really owning that is just a huge empowerment. But for men, guys out there, if you're single and you want to learn how to communicate with women, that I teach you how to do that. That's at datingtriggers.com. So guys, don't worry. I didn't leave you out. Leave you out.
And you've got for the women too. Now, is this for dating for women too? You have something for them?
No, I don't yet. I've been asked that a few times. I haven't.
Yeah, I
should.
can use that. I can.
It's Dating Triggers, TRIGGERS.
Yes, datingtriggers.com. Yeah, thank you for that.
In the text.
Oh, thank you so much.
But it's good for the guys to get their stuff together when they get on dating sites. So you can teach them so that when we get on those online sites or we meet people, they've already read your book. This way they're going to be better behaved.
Yeah, I just, I had a few women. I went to an event that I had some women come up to me. It was for dating for both sides. And I had 3 women come up to me. I felt like I was back in high school. They all came up to me and they're like, "We don't like what you do." And I'm like, wow. Really? It was very daunting. There was 3 of them.
Oh,
they all came together like sisters, and I'm like, Okay. But I said, well, first of all, you're not my market.
Right.
And you know what? That's okay. So it's a part of the sales process is you're going to piss the people off you don't want. I don't want women on datingtriggers.com. It's not for them. Right? So
that's right.
And I said, well, and I told him, I said, just like that. I said, with all due respect, it's not for you. I don't want to sell to you. And they go, well, we don't like what you're doing. I go, okay. I said, that's fine. You have that view, but actually I'm helping men understand you. So 1, I don't want you on the list. 2, you're welcome to, but 2, I'm okay that you don't like it. But 3, the men who are on it learn how to understand you women so that you guys have a better life. And that's how I feel like I'm helping women. And they kind of had this weird look on their face. And then after that was before the program. And then we had this program happen for an hour and a half. And then after the program, I saw him at the bar. And, I guess it's women thing. I'm like, they're going to kill me again, right? So they actually were like, okay, we get it. We like you now.
Wow.
I was like, well, thank you. But again, you're not my market. And that's a key piece, I think, with marketers and salespeople, is that we don't want people not to like us. You know, it's like, well, I can help everybody. He's like, actually niche, you know, like the migraine, the chiropractor. He's like, I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm sure he can do other modalities. I am sure he can. But he went there because then he can expand there. And I think that's a key piece with marketing and sales, is like being willing to have people not like you. Like, I don't like what you're doing. It's like,
and knowing who your market is, I think that's huge. Yeah. If you go trying to sell to people who don't need your products and service, you'll never be successful. You have to find the people who want and need and desire your products. So yeah, it's very important.
That's a great point, Heather. You know, and that's the thing too. Like, if you have an email database and people unsubscribe, you know, good riddance. I mean, when I first learned internet marketing from Matt Basic back
back in the day, I've known Matt for years, since 2002.
Oh, he's a great guy. He's the one who taught me everything I know in the beginning. Yeah, he's just great. And I remember, I'll never forget, because he used to have a Monday night call, and he used to say, you know, if somebody unsubscribes from your list, good, because they'll never buy from you. And I've never forgotten that. So like, anytime I get unsubscribed, I'm like, they're not going to buy. So what? They're not like you said, they're not my market. They're not going to buy. And I think that helps a lot with sales too. If somebody doesn't buy from you, they're not for you. They're not the match. If you've done everything correctly and they're just not in, so you can't sell to everybody. You know, people are going to resonate with you and your style, and some people are going to like you. Some people will hate you. It's like, look at the president. Half the people hate him. Half the people like him, or coming, you know, up and down. You get people absolutely love him, people absolutely hate him. So nobody loves anybody.
We call it getting the heckler out, you know, in a seminar and live environment, we had what I call a heckler. If someone didn't like us, you know, we would try to remove them. And it's not that because we don't want anyone to be, you know, have a voice. It was more about removing the energy, you know. And I think when an email list, it's like, just remove them. If I get someone who's like emailing me complaining, I'm like, thank you, and I'm going to unsubscribe you. And I just unsubscribe for them, because I'm like, there's no reason to have an argument, you know. There's like, just, you're not a fit for my list. Moving on, you know, you're just not a fit for what I'm doing. It's no big deal. It's not life changing.
Absolutely.
You know, so I think that where people get caught up is they feel like they have to serve everybody or make everyone happy. And I'm like, that's, you know, you just can't. And it's not worth your energy. So as a good salesperson, I would say, if you're not, and Dan Kennedy would always say, if you're not getting someone upset at you, then you're not selling hard enough.
All right.
So if you're not someone,
and that's true, right? You're not creating that.
It's very true. So when I had those women come up to me, and heckle me, you know, I was like, okay, Dan Kennedy said, if someone's not mad at you, then you're not selling enough. This is confirmation that I'm doing something right, you know, because they're not my market. And you should see their face, like, how dare you say that? I'm like, but you're not. I'm not trying to sell to you. I have another site for you. Go over there. And they're like, but you should, you know. I was just like, it's okay. I still love you. Just go over there. So I just think that every salesperson or anyone self-promoting themselves into whatever genre, massage therapist, chiropractic, weight loss, whatever it is, speaker, salesperson, consultant, you have to know who your market is and then let other people fall off. So anyway,
very, very good advice.
Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun. I'd love to come on again.
Heather, I know we're about out of time, and Christina, you and I need to write the book. There's just not that into you for marketers. That would be great. So because we have a lot of experience, Heather, tell us your favorite sales tool or resource. Let's leave with a good tip for people.
Sure. Well, I'll say it this way. I'm going to turn my head for a second. It's actually a lesson or rule I keep in my life to help me in business in general, you know, like, so whatever that looks like. So, and I have it right here on my desk. So that's why I'm turning my head. So it says, never keep anyone in my life that's not part of my fan club. Wow, yeah. And that goes into relationships, that goes into lists, that goes into clients. You know, sometimes you get a client that is paying you, but they're not part of your fan club. And it's like, well, you got to let them go. It's family. That's a hard one. Cousins, sisters, you know, it's anyone in your life that's not part of your fan club. It's dead. It's what I was told. It's like dead weight. You know, it's like, you can't make them like you. It's like, let them go and love. And I think in sales, that's what you do the same thing. If you have someone attacking you or upset at you, or they don't like your product, it's like, they're not part of your fan club. It's like, okay. And it's like, thank you for listening. I, wish you well in your life. Move on. There's just no reason to resist that and trying to get people to come onto your side. So that's what I would say.
Let them go.
Let them
That's
go.
great advice. That's fantastic. You are absolutely wonderful, Heather.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for saying
thank
yes.
you for bearing with us with
Sure.
all this.
Yeah, sorry about mine.
Great. Yeah. Oh no, we all had it's the planets and the new blood moon and whatever. That's what I hear.
No, it is.
So
Yeah, huge
prepared,
moon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
everything's all like technically going a little nutty this week. So, but in the end, everything came out great, and we're going to be sharing this with everybody. I want to thank everybody here. If there's any last minute questions, I think we're good. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Heather. Thank you, Heidi. I'll X everybody out and bye-bye. Thank you.
Do we want to talk about next week's program at all? Do we want to mention this?
Oh, well, we'll be back here again on noon on next Tuesday. Yes, next Tuesday is what, October the 6th. And also to check out Heidi and I, our new mastermind at businessmasterymastermind.com. And that is our monthly mastermind program that we're launching on the 13th. It's really exciting. We're going to have a topic every week, which we're going to mastermind about privately, and you can jump in the hot seat there. We're also going to have our own private Facebook group for everybody and some great resources. Thank you, Heather. Sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Don't worry. Thank you. That our first mastermind is going to be on Periscope. So hopefully y'all will join us.
Yes. I'll let Heather get out. And yeah, our first mastermind will be on Periscope. So we're going to be doing the ins and outs of Periscope because we discussed that today. And then we're going to actually teach you how to create your own blab show and how to promote it and how to use Periscope to your advantage and all the ins and outs. Each week will be a very in-depth program. Right now, first 25 people, only $37 a month. It will be going to $97, the normal price. But we want to get, the first initial people, we're going to allow them to come in and be grandfathered in at that low price. So it's really a no-brainer. We're going to assign you an accountability partner, which is fantastic. So check out the details. It is over at Business. Heidi, if you want to punch that in for me, it's businessmasterymastermind.com. And we will be back here with we haven't decided on our topic for next week yet, but we will be back here next Tuesday at noon. And we are looking forward to seeing you. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.